Hey everybody, and welcome to another model building workshop. I'm Mr. Allen. I'm here at the Smith Hill Library, part of the Providence Community Library here in Providence, Rhode Island, and we're going to be talking about World War I Belgian Infantry. This is the latest kit to come out from ICM out of Ukraine, and it shows that we have 4 figures. Belgian Infantry, World War I, and unlike some of their other kits, you can see these guys are in the middle of quite the battle going here. So these poses are going to show, well, some heavy fighting, and you can set them up to like this, where it looks like a pretty desperate fight, which wouldn't be untrue of the German invasion of Belgium in 1914. It does tend to give you that harried, oh my goodness kind of thing going on here. Some interesting poses. So let's take a look at what's in the box, shall we? Like I said, this is the newest in ICM's line of World War I figures. Got some pictures there on the side. And they give you this nice solid box here. I took the liberty of taking all of the tape off because that's a process in itself. Which is fine because you want it well secured, right? So let's see what we got. So we have the traditional layout of the parts and parts call numbers there. We've got a paint guide here, which is asking for, well, let's see, ICM paint numbers, Revell and Tamiya, though it does give you a color guide to help. And the instructions, typical of these, it's not even a blow up. They don't even show it blown up. They just show them already assembled with all these little part number call outs and the lettered paint call outs. So it shows it in color, so you get a bit of an idea what that's supposed to look like. So I built some of these, and they are a lot of fun. One thing that's really cool about these kits is that, and they could do a little bit more to explain this. As you see, they've got that extra pile of equipment there. So you get a couple of screws here full of parts. They have these resealable bags here. So let's see if I can get in here without requiring tools. Pretty good adhesive on the bags. That's resealable. All right. So we got one here that's just of the pieces to make the figures. And the detail's pretty good on these kits. And then you get 2 sprues of gear. And not all of the gear that's on this is explained in the instructions. So, doing a little bit of research, and I'll show you some of how I did that in just a second, you can see that there is equipment on here for different periods of the war. So you have the equipment, as shown in the instructions, to do the 1914 look, which is a very antiquated looking uniform. With these really interesting hats that they've got on. And they had this cartridge box that sat right in the front of, kind of on their belly, which they realized that was completely impractical. Actually, the entire uniform was really impractical for the 20th century. So a lot of changes were made very quickly to this uniform, and they began to adopt different types of gear. And that is on here, so you could do the 1914 period, and you can do later in the First World War. And let me show you what I mean. So being a librarian, big fan of books. And if you're into World War I figures, this is pretty much a must in my opinion. World War I soldiers, 1914-1918. I gonna try to get this name right. Laurent Marouz. This is from the Militaria line from Histoire and Collections from France. So, here's the Belgian uniform of 1914 in full color and with explanations of what all these parts and bits are. So this is what your 1914 Belgian figure is going to look like, complete with the fun hat and all the weaponry. You can see that big pouch with the ammo right where his stomach is. Not the best place for that, and that was done away with rather quickly. That huge backpack that he's carrying, and a lot of other gear, and this was just extremely cumbersome. And yeah, you could fade it out pretty fast. And for more than one reason. One, it was extremely impractical, and second, with the invasion, well, to be fair, it says here that they were already beginning to work on modernizing the army and the uniforms, but then the German invasion came, and so much for that. But it had to change quickly, but in a more pressing way. I think it'll be better if I just showed you what I'm talking about. Okay, what year are we looking at? 1916, 1916, 1916, 1916. Where are you? Okay, 1916, 1917. So here's the Belgian uniform later. So you're going to see that they adopted a French-style helmet, and some of the design looks more French. But the webbing equipment here, the cartridge pouches, etc., are British pattern, and so is the cloth, even though the cut's kind of French-like and not too unlike what they were already using in 14. The color changed. Now it's a brown drab color, because what they had to do is they had to rely on British cloth at this point, as the country was invaded and they were in trouble and they were trying to repel the Germans. They could, kind of had to make some compromises, and they took help from the British and the French. So it was a French gas mask canister. The French-style helmet. There's a slight difference with the Belgian helmet as opposed to the French one, in that I think this has a more flat rim, where the French might have a slight curve to it. That might be impossible to see in 1/35 scale. So I don't know if it's even detectable on those parts. So there might just be a regular French helmet there. Anyway, if you're going to get really technical, but I don't know what you're going to notice in 35th scale. So you have those two options there that you could do with this. But with a very simple modification to this kit, you could make that soldier a Belgian soldier of this period, World War II. Again, same series of books, same author, different period. But there's a lot of overlap. And let me show you what I mean. Here is a Belgian soldier in the battles of the spring of 1940, and it's not that different looking, really. Minor modifications, and you can make this kit out of that kit there from ICM. The main change is you've got to get a later period Mauser rifle, and you need the German style ammunition pouches that go with the Mauser. That can easily be acquired from any German infantry kit, or spare parts, or there's different ways to get German infantry gear. And just simply swap out the World War I Mauser and the early Belgian and the British style ammunition pouches, and just get some World War II style Mauser pouches, and you basically, that kit could also make World War II Belgian soldiers. So it's a good deal, because now there's a lot of possibilities with this kit. 1914, 1917, 1940. Cool. And it's true that a lot of these ICM World War I kits you can do that with, actually, because if you get the Austro-Hungarian Empire infantry set, same thing, gives you the 1914 look with the cloth hats and, you know, the gray-blue uniform, but with simple modifications, even with the parts in the kit, which they don't really explain it, but the parts in the kit, they give the helmets for the later war period, which I believe is in this book. I don't have the kit here, but I just going to quickly talk about this. Let me see if I can find the Austrian. Come on, where are you? This book is fantastic. I'll show you a little bit more in a second, because it gets into pretty much, here we go. So the Austrian, you can do that, or you can do the early one. And quite frankly, with that kit, you can also, with a simple modification, swapping out the this style German helmet with the 1935 style helmet, and now you've got yourself a World War II Hungarian soldier. Change of paint, basically the same equipment, just the helmet's different. And then you got World War II Hungarians. Anyway, that's our discussion today. That's, you know, our fun with the models today. So if you're interested in Belgians or something different, give it a shot. And like I said, you've got, in a way, this can be 3 different kits for 3 different time periods, depending on what you want to do. Cool, huh? All right. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. We'll see you guys soon. Bye now.